The Honourable Minister for Higher Education.
Thank you. Mr. Acting Speaker, I'd like to join in the debate. I'm not one very keen to gag other leaders talking. We like to listen to them. But always have this view that under three conditions we should stop any mislead, and one is the veracity of facts presented to the Parliament or to the people when the facts are not correct and misconstrued. I think it's a duty of all of us to say the facts are not true, therefore establish the fact on black and white paper like the Honourable Treasurer has done. So the veracity must be corrected, and I think the Treasurer has adequately corrected them. The second is if the opposition or any other member of the floor of Parliament, another body would like to rebut what the government is doing, there must be an alternative policy. Or if in this case, if one was in government before, and for instance, on this floor of Parliament, we have two former Prime Ministers here. The Right Honourable Sir Julius Chen, former Prime Minister, one of the best we had. And we have the Honourable Member for Yalupanke, Honourable Peter O'Neill. For such people of that category to speak, they must also tell what they did and what the present government is doing against what they did. And therefore, what they did bring about such positive results and return on investments they did, but they can compare with the current government what we are doing, which is not in order. In those circumstances, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I think the former Prime Minister fell very short to explain, to justify his points, and therefore, if one was listening very neutrally to the arguments presented, you would be very inclined with 100% surety to believe what the Treasurer has presented in support of what the Prime Minister said, then to listen to the opposing argument. The third category of arguments should be the one who comes before to discuss an issue must come with clean hands. I think in law, it is the principle, the maximum principle of equity, where you say, I am clean hands, I did it right, therefore now you're not doing it, so you fulfill that. But I think in this case, I find it very difficult to see people who forget very fresh memories recently, what they have done that has hurt this country so much, and then speak as if they have clean hands. So therefore, Mr. Acting Speaker, I had to intervene and raise the point of order because I have vivid memories of the very issues we have raised. Let me just mention one or two before I support the Treasurer in his statement yesterday. This statement that the Treasurer presented, I would like to advise and guide all the members of Parliament, as those who have come anew, and the people of Papua New Guinea, that the facts here, they are facts. The veracity here is perfect. In other words, it is 100% true. The figures and the statistics you find on this, they're very true. You can search it, Google search it, you can ask IMF, you can ask the World Bank, you can ask other sovereign nations of the facts about Papua New Guinea, you'll find it is true. For instance, PNG's GDP growth is 3.5%. The world will shrink down to 1.7% from a 3.5% growth. Now that is a fact. The veracity is, therefore I'm saying it's 100% true. So I will speak to that, but just let me say, when you talk about employment, you know, that was the advice that was given to some of us when we were the Prime Minister at that time, when we get money to put elsewhere, not to create employment. Buying shares in other companies could not provide an employment. That would destroy employment. We just said that. Mr. Acting Speaker, you look at something answered in the Parliament here. I was on the other side as a leader of the opposition, and I used to give that advice. I was also a treasurer too. And I said, look, if we get such money, 3.1 billion kina, and that is almost 90% of the development budget of Papua New Guinea at that time then. So you are just getting the development budget of Papua New Guinea to put into a speculative market. If you did that, then of course you will see the next 10 to 20 years, you will see unemployment. You will see inflation went up. You will see the foreign reserve will have challenges. You will see cash flow situations. Why? Because Papua New Guinea is a growing economy and we need to strengthen it to mature economy. And people never listen. And now I hear the same people, they're crying over spilled milk. They're saying, oh, there's 10,000 people, they're looking for a job and there's none. Who created it? You were in that position. You were in that chair. You had the decision-making power. You had to do that. The other thing we raised was, do not give jobs to foreigners. Don't give jobs to foreigners. The Papua New Guinean companies, we give them jobs in the construction industry. There was a call that was made genuinely and sincerely, not just a leader of the opposition or somebody who opposed policies of the former prime minister and his government, but we said, don't give jobs to overseas. Now what happens? The overseas companies have come in, their businesses and they have their own interest. What do? They kill your Papua New Guinea local interest. Now you're making one of them. You look in. All overseas companies, they give them contract. You go on all employees. We said, current all employees will all come here. Now, pick an employee, you remember making one of something. Now you complain at all, say, hey, 10,000, there's a company. We should create him. And you kiss him 10,000 employment and give him all overseas company. Understand, Mr. Speaker. Let's not just speak. We must speak strategically and see what we have done. Learn in the past and correct in the future. Some of us, we just talk without even thinking what we have done. Let me just tell another one. The debt level. Now everybody is really becoming an expert on debt. Hallelujah, acting speaker. Wow, this becomes a hot potato. Debt. That was what told the former prime minister. His brother sitting next to him. Don't get that loan because it's going to increase your debt and you will be crying foul because you'll find you'll have destroyed this economy. Didn't want to listen. Now, he's the one to shoot up, and I would like to hear another member of parliament to say this. A new member of parliament has come in on both sides of us to talk about that and discuss the issue. Not those that have accumulated debt and started this. Amen. You look at this government here, the Marlborough government, I'm speaking so sincerely. We are trying to fix a situation created by people who never listened in the past. And now those who want to complain, they must have clean hands. So I thought those are fair comments I'm making so we understand for the future that we must speak what is credible, what is true. He shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. Talk the truth. Now, on the issue of quantitative and qualitative performance criteria that I hear the good leader of the opposition mentioned. Now, yes, I see IMF does come up with some, say, well, we will implement these structural adjustment programs and therefore you'll see this growth. But you look at the performance there. You look at the performance of this government. We already have a growth of 3.5% as per our projections, and we'll be growing on that track. It is growing. The IMF need not come and tell us how to grow it. We're already growing. But if there's an argument that, well, we are not seeing it here or there, the responsible lies with all the MPs, the public service, and those that have been responsibly mandated to implement the programs of government. The implementation issues are not the same as the policy issues. The Marlborough government is giving the right policy perspective. The strategies are correct. The leadership in the right direction. Now the challenge comes to what Treasurer was saying yesterday when he said that the budget must be effectively implemented. So that allows all the members of parliament, the district administration, the provincial administration, the governors, and the district or the secretaries, and so forth. So we implement that. As to how we implement the programs, it's now up to this House and the leaders to implement through the public service. Let me a little bit specific in the areas that I am entrusted to look after, in the area of education. I'm happy that the budget provides 1.65 billion in the education sector. It's good to spend money in that area, not to invest in some stock exchange or in shares in some business. It's good to put money in 1.65 billion. That's about 51% increase to skilling our Papua New Guineans. And that's a very good thing. If you look at what the Prime Minister said, in the next 5 years, we'd like to see 30,000 non-school leavers, apps placed in all the universities and in the technical college institutions. And that's where the money is. I, as responsible minister, what I'm doing is I'm looking at how do I improve the skills of Papua New Guineans with employment, but the employability of these Papua New Guineans is very, very important. If they're not skilled, it's very difficult for them to get a job. Even though we have the population here and we will still cry, we want employment, but if we don't train our Papua New Guineans young people to be employed in the gas industry, in the mining sector, in agriculture, in the construction industry, in all the other areas, then you will find employment will continue to be a problem because the skill we have not produced yet. What we're doing with this policy is that we are creating skills, developing the most relevant skills for Papua New Guineans so that we have the skills given to our Papua New Guineans to have an employment. Infrastructure, the trustee mentioned. That's a key area. If you look at all our institutions, universities and colleges, we're building and we're rehabilitating infrastructure for science lab, classrooms, dormitories. We have 200 million kina in partnership with ADB to implement the program. And I'm happily implementing that because we like to see the quality of our institutions come up, so you quality good ones coming out of the institutions. So we're implementing the government's policy. When we have 1.56 billion in that sector, it's already at work. We're implementing it. Now, effective implementation of the budget, I say again, in support of what the trustee said yesterday, it is the public service. All of us have a duty at our districts. The deserving money we get, it's a lot of money. It's 10 million has been, but it will be 20 million for this year and oncoming years. When we talk about employment or any economic growth, it actually lies with individual MPs and the district administration, your finance managers and everybody on the ground. Like in Kandep, I'm meeting with them. How do we convert that money into employability, into economic growth in Kandep and link it to the Anga Provincial Development Plan and link that to the medium-term development strategies of the national government or with the Vision 2050. So the job we have here, we already have the solutions. We have the strategies, we have the means to solve those issues. And yet we complain. We should not be complaining. We should be happy and be cheerful. At least we have a government that is putting a lot of money, but it's up to individual MPs and their public service administration to implement to achieve the intended returns. Now, talking about that, I was complaining on the other side when the member for Yellow Pangi was the Prime Minister. I said, your debt level should have to 35 billion. I had Prime Minister Honorable James Marabe said 29 billion. 29 billion because on the balance books of Treasury it is 29 billion. But if you look at the money that was used through the SOEs, it goes up to 35 billion. Now you'll find some of the SOEs don't have the money to invest and to make more money to return themselves. Like in Power PNG and the others, we're talking about Power PNG. But the money must be there, capital must be there. But when you take a loan and when you start to build up the debts like I alluded to earlier, then the money went there. So actually, under the Prime Minister of the former Prime Minister, you had a debt level that suited, to my knowledge, including the SOEs, is to the 35 billion. On the Treasury balance sheet is 29 billion. So really you find it is now the challenge that we on this side of the house have to, how do we manage it? We scale it down, but at the same time grow the economy, at the same time create employment for people and implement the programs as well as looking at the rural sector, our DSIPs, through the DSIP funds. The public service, Mr. Acting Speaker, is a very important area. I think the implementation is an issue. Implementation is a challenge. I think on the leadership side, I think we are doing well as a government, but challenges in individual public service in every sector. The public service needs to wake up to the reality. The leadership in the public service needs to be addressed, and according to the Treasurer, we have had the statement that's being addressed adequately. With the partnership that the state has with IMF, we are addressing that to upgrading the skill, the capacity, the capability of public service to implement these programs. So, Mr. Acting Speaker, we should stay focused. Focus on implementation. Focus on fixing the problems in our areas, in challenges that we are entrusted to each other, in the province or in the districts, as well as in the ministries or in the sectors that we look after. I believe, Mr. Acting Speaker, that what a government could do under certain circumstances, they are being done adequately. You look at it. There are many alternatives to take. But if you look at the current situation, the circumstances presented, created of hole in the past, and some challenges beyond our control that comes on to Papua New Guinea, like the COVID-19 ahead, and also some other wars that impact upon the inflation pressure and so forth. Within those circumstances, the Marape-Rosa government is implementing programs that are right. I think we should change our mindset, Mr. Speaker. I think the opposition and the government, we should change our mindset to looking at what we must do to make areas that we look after better than always backing at the government. The government at the moment, under circumstances, I think we are doing well, and we should be supported. And I ask the members of the opposition to support the government by doing what they can do rather than giving misconstrued facts or forgetting the past. I think the direction that we should take is to learn from the past and be learned from the present into the future. We should look at the future. Future is one that we must create ourselves as a nation of competency and affluency, and that's where we're going. So as far as, in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, as far as the government is concerned, the Marape-Rosa government, we're doing well, we're on track. We support the Treasurer in his economic management, regardless of the challenges, regardless of the dynamics and the conditions we see today. Learn from the past and let's move forward. I encourage we should discuss and debate very fruitfully like this, but with facts. And if you are clean and you give a suggestion, I think it's worth listening to. But if you have been a contributor to the problems, it's all right too. You can learn. All of us can learn and improve. But this government is moving forward in the right direction. The country needs to support this. Thank you very much, Mr. Acting Speaker.